So we're going to go through offensive and defensive side of playing in the neutral zone, which I think is important because I'm noticing with the team that I now coach, it's an easy place to get lost. It's an easy place to think doesn't matter or think like that you can take shut your brain off for a bit. But a lot of things happen in the neutral zone. So I guess kind of to start off, last time we talked about D zone and you kind of laid out kind of a little bit of a philosophy about defensive zone play, or whatever. So I don't know if you have something like that you want to start with, or do you want to go right to the board
Well,
stuff?
no, for sure. Like the neutral zones, it's interesting because I never gave it two thoughts in my life until I got to junior hockey, and still, it wasn't really like in my days, the '80s. It wasn't really preached. It was like, I mean, your blue lines, don't turn it over at the blue line, don't turn it over at their blue line, right? Get it in, get it out. That was the philosophy, and it was like, okay. And then when I played, there was a red line, so we didn't have the stretch passes that you were allowed to do. It would be called a 2-line pass. So the neutral zone was maybe not as important, but it was important because the emphasis was on getting it in, getting it out. That's because that's basically where the neutral zone is. Other than that, what are you thinking about in the neutral zone? You're thinking of maybe your back checks or carrying the puck with some speed, and it wasn't really emphasized so much. But and I think when people grow through the game of hockey, especially at younger ages, like you wouldn't even know, you wouldn't think it's a zone, right? Like as far as a player goes, they're not thinking neutral zone, and I think a lot of coaches would fall into that category too. Especially, I'm not talking pros, I'm talking in youth hockey. That your neutral zone is, probably doesn't get as much thought as like a D zone coverage or a forecheck. But the thing with the neutral zone is like all plays got to go through it, and it's actually the area of the game where if you're successful in the neutral zone, it could win you games. So offensively, how it wins you games is like you're picking up turnovers, you're entering with speed, you're yeah, I'll just leave it at that. You're making plays like it used to be when, like in the '80s, well before the red line, you'd have to come out of your zone, either skating it or passing it up. Now, because it's stretched out, there's no red line. You could put guys up at the far blue line, and now that's where I find the game is a little bit more boring. You can just fire it up, jackknife it in, and forecheck if you happen to get there on time. So now, so that's now, but you used to have to pass it through. So on the defensive side, it's like you can literally frustrate the hell out of the other team in the neutral zone, and you could win games on turnovers. And so for me, the neutral zone is huge. It's huge. And like when I coached, well, we spent a lot of time talking about the neutral zone. We had a neutral zone structure for Bantam kids. Now, as far as youth hockey goes, I think there's a time and a place to teach neutral zone because and yes and no. I would keep it. I'm going to keep the simplest one today, and it would be basically defending the neutral zone, and that would be like a 1-2-2.
Yeah. So we'll get into that in a second. Just maybe to add on to what you're saying, you kind of said this without using these terms. Is obviously it's called the neutral zone, so it's neutral for both teams. But really, what's happening is that's where your brain transition kind of happens at the most basic level from offense to defense or from defense to offense. So once you're entering that, that's where your brain should start to flip into offensive mindset versus flip back from offense into defensive mindset. So I think that's a good way of thinking about it for young players or young coaches or whatever when you're discussing it. These are things that, because we've been at higher levels now, we just take for granted that these things are understood. But this is literally where your brain the switch should flip. If you're going to put one spot on it, obviously we can talk about if the D has it in your corner full possession, a guy can run a stretch pass and now he's thinking offense, and obviously there's exceptions, but generally speaking, that's kind of where that flip happens. And I think your point about like kind of the significance of where this can win or lose you games, I think on the defensive side, especially, just to reiterate what you were saying, is this is where you can constantly get turnovers, you can constantly get the puck, you can constantly frustrate teams. And you can really strategize to get different types of teams depending on the style of play to play into your hand based on what you decide they are weak at or strong at or whatever. So this is where the strategy really starts to come into play. because there's lots of moving parts. So if you can have a good strategy through that zone where everybody's going to be skating, that's where you can cause a lot of problems and find some benefit for your team based on your strengths and based on the weaknesses of the other team. And that's kind of where the thinking part comes in. So this has been something that I've been talking with our guys about the last 2 weeks that I've had them now is, and it sounds like obviously, but you have to be able to think situationally based on what's going on around you. And we had a conversation Monday with one of the other coaches, and he was talking about how a lot of times coaches don't let players think. They just say, you have to do this, you have to do this. And I think it's important that when we talk about all of these basic things, which you always do every time you're talking about it, is you say, this is just a frame. Like, this is just something at a base level to lay a foundation that you work up from. And I think if you're a good coach, you should always be throwing an element of, this is generally what the rule of thumb is, but you have to be able to play. You have to be able to see things. I was talking to our guys about it in terms of play calls. So when we're calling certain face-off plays, it's like, if this play only works if this draw is one clean to this defenseman, right? If that doesn't
blow
happen,
the zone if they lose.
Yeah, if that doesn't happen, you can't still run the play. You have to see that that's not happening now and make a decision. And this is the hockey IQ conversation that everybody tries to have, is being able to make decisions about it. So when we lay this out and we start talking about this, like you said, you're going to talk about the 1-2-2 example, which is great. And that's like basically your foundational neutral zone play on the defensive side. But it's important that everybody knows there's different ways to do things. It's just a framework. It's just something you're going to build up from, etc. Just like with the zone.
You want to have you want to have a philosophy and understand, okay, what's it all about, right? And if can I show the board for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So from it doesn't matter which side of the ice you're on, right? So let's just say like the puck is here. Let's say a D has a puck here. So in the defensive zone coming out, and you're forechecking. So if you have, and this is just the very basics of hockey. If you don't teach or you don't think, then what will happen is you have, let's say, the forwards all going after a puck. That's what little kids hockey looks like, right? So if it doesn't change over time, then that's how you play hockey. Then this, very simply, all you have to do is get the puck past three people, and now you have an odd man rush.
Yeah, one pass,
right?
Beating them, yeah.
So pretty simple. So that's like as simple as you can say. Now, if you don't have the thing, so that might be very simple, but the truth is that a lot of people don't teach a neutral zone. So that's why it's important, because it's like, without any thought, if you can be playing a game, kids could be playing a game, and they could be going, man, like, we can never get the puck when they have the puck. Or maybe you get lucky and you get it all the time because you got three really fast guys and they're all over the puck and you get breakaways. Like, but there's no rhyme or reason why that happened, right? So in the neutral zone, what you're trying to do is just a philosophy, like from a defensive standpoint, is you're trying to stay. A lot of people have heard the term and maybe don't understand when a coach says that you want to stay above the puck. So what that means, or above their players, right? So that what that means is that you're not chasing. So that means if a D here has a puck or a forward, whatever, they start skating, and you're like on this side of them or on the outside of them, and you're kind of behind, and they're moving pucks ahead. That means you're below the puck. Being above the puck just simply means they're getting out of the way. So like in the offensive zone, if you're forechecking, it goes D to D, and you're always forechecking like from behind, then you're chasing the game. But if it comes across and the winger or the centerman slides across, now you're above the puck and you're getting guys off to the outside. And that's really essentially what you're trying to do in the neutral zone, is to negate anything coming through the neutral zone.
Yeah.
Right.
So I want to talk about, I use this as an example in one of the videos I did. And people have been asking, because I've been doing a lot of these on my TikTok. If you guys haven't seen those and you want to, I'm going to start to try to post them on some other platforms too. But if you go to my TikTok, you'll see where I do a lot of these just on the board. So one thing I was talking about in the context of offensive zone positioning, I have kids or coaches, whoever they are, asking about, how do I play center in the offensive zone? Or how do I play wing in the offensive zone? And I'm trying to teach the concept of, you don't really have the same positions in the offensive zone as the defensive zone. So the way that I did it is I kind of drew on your defensive side of the red line, it's kind of center, wing, wing. As soon as you pass that red line and you're starting to get into the offensive zone,
It's more 1, 2,
now
3.
you're changing into just first guy, second guy, third guy, which is why we call it F1, F2, F3. So whoever the first guy is, now you're going to be initiating whatever the play is. Second guy has a job, third guy has a job. It's not centerman has a job, winger has a job, winger has a job. And that's the same thing when we're talking about a lot of neutral zone stuff. A lot of times it's going to be the first guy does this, the second guy does this, the third guy does this. It's not the right winger does this, the left winger does this, the centerman does this. Frequently, it'll just happen to be, just like in our D zone, that the first guy back is a defenseman. In the neutral zone, it'll be a centerman is in the middle of the ice often, just because that's where the centerman normally is. So it could work out frequently that you have a right winger, left winger, and a centerman in the same positions. But generally speaking, offensive zone or the offensive side of the neutral zone, it's going to be like a first man, second man, third man type of thing. So that's kind of your number one, where I can see guys that ask me questions about it getting confused. If I'm a winger, I'm allowed to just go to the other side of the ice, or if I'm a centerman, I'm allowed to stay on the wall or whatever. And the answer is yes, obviously depending on what your coach says. But in general, it's not like you're glued to that position anymore. Does that kind of make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.